you're going to need to get some upholstery from. I bought some from Amazon and wrapped around it with some batting, and I kept that to use as skin. I also bought this compression shirt from Amazon to use on the underside. With some spring-loaded shears, I would cut in angles in order for me to shape the foam, but I also used two pieces that I adhered together with M77 spray adhesive. So to make the teeth and fangs, I went and grabbed some blank copy paper, went and made the templates out, cut them out, and held them together with masking tape, and then I also used the blue masking tape as well. That way I can keep the shape form, and then fill them with the canned foam, then set them down and let them dry in the garage on a tarp. Now, these have been sitting in the garage for a good hour, but they still need more time to fully cure, so I left them overnight. But I did check a couple just to make sure that they're maintaining the shape I need, because then eventually those little ends right there, they're just going to cut those off. So you can see here it's taking shape. I added more foam to the ends where I was going to have the tentacles. Then I had to think about the back end of the foam itself not to be flat. I needed to angle it, and that way it'll conform to my chest, my body. So as you can see here, cutting those slits in there and then putting the adhesive on there and holding it, make sure that it stays in bonds, and it turned out rather good. Here I did the same thing for the shirt, front and back. That way the foam will stick to it. Then your next step will be doing the same thing, spraying it with some adhesive, and then adding the batting and cutting out the sections because you're going to make it into skin. See, and then of course I had to cover the hole in the center because I wanted to make sure it was really close in there, just in case I plan on, making some modifications for that. But that's the only reason for that. Then onto the step where you need to put the flex seal. So this is where I had it nice and ventilated, wear my mask, and took out the flex seal, started spraying away. It took 2 cans to do this, but that way it added a good layer for the batting to have a thickness to it and skin-like texture, which I will add on to it with the RD407 latex. So when you're doing this, you want to ensure that you are spraying the entire inside, then outside, and be kind of like generous with it because you want a good layer to be on there. And of course, as you can see here, I am checking it just to make sure the spray is getting on there and putting a good coat. And of course, like I said, 2 cans of this stuff isn't cheap, but it works rather well as the first coating of skin to go on to cover that batting and to help out when you're adding the latex and the caulk as well. So the way I broke mine down was I did mostly the inside, and then I started doing the claw and the underbelly of the costume, and then I will move on to the very top of the costume as well and start spraying there. Alright, from this angle you're able to see how I'm getting a good nice coating on the batting, on the teeth, on the fangs. Be generous with it, just ensure that you're covering each section in portions. That way you've gotten that part. And then of course later on you can go back over it with the second can of Flex Seal. So this is the second can I'm using here, and adding a more thickness to the skin part of the batting and to all the joints that are joined together on the costume. And this is just the costume with the foam, with the batting, and nothing else as of right now, because this is the initial spraying. And later on you will be putting on the caulk, and then after that the latex. Now the caulk definitely helps out in making up for some of that thickness that you need for skin and muscle tissue here with the parts and joining the costume, and it actually helps to make the joining parts a lot stronger and adding that thickness that you need for that realism that you're trying to find. Now some of the teeth, as you can see, I did actually make them out of caulk. I set them out, shaped them, and let them dry and put them on there. And utilizing the adhesive, it actually really, it worked. And I already knew that it would be stronger because it would be covered with latex as well. But definitely everything. Now this took about 5 tubes of caulk, and of course I bought the cheap one from Walmart, the one made for windows. It was like $1.18 a tube. And then, applying it on there and making it the way I want it to look. It over, this was the best way in applying the latex, was to lay the costume down on top of a box covered with tarp and then go ahead and pour the latex on there while using a paintbrush in order to spread it out throughout the other parts of the costume. And it just kept doing that, pouring it, paintbrushing it, and then sometimes dabbing some of that paintbrush and then spreading it out. But I want to make sure I got a full uniform application of the RD407 latex. Yes, you wear a mask. Yes, you want some ventilation because of the ammonia smell that comes off. Now I gave it a few hours, came back, and I started to apply the second layer of latex. When you've completed your 2 layers, let this dry and cure for about 2 to 3 days. After those 2 to 3 days, I was ready to start painting the inside of the mouth and the claw, giving it a more like a gum tissue color and then doing veins and shadowing. After those portions that I painted to look like gum tissue and veins, I went around with just plain latex and covered all the teeth and fangs with that latex to add a nice textured layer to it. Now the fun part was the airbrushing in the different shaded colors that I needed to utilize in order to darken the areas that needed to be darkened, to kind of give that a little bit more dimension and in showing some of the textures that are inside there. There are a couple of ways you can apply that acrylic glow-in-the-dark paint, and the black light acrylic paint is applying it straight or mixing it with RD407 latex. If you apply it straight, just let it dry and then you can put latex over it. Then I just used the spray paint and made my blood spatter on top of the latex that I already applied that was dried. Then of course I just made the hand as well, same steps. Here it is unfinished. I still have to do the final freckling and skin tone color paint to it. After that, it was adding the glow in the dark paint, the black light paint, and blood spatter to the hand. Now the costume is done, and I wanted to make sure you guys got to see it from different angles and different lighting. Now, I'm no professional FX artist, but I'm some kind of home brewed yard haunter, and I like to make my ideas come to life. And I haven't seen any other costume that looks like this out there on the web or on YouTube. And so, with a few bucks in my pocket, I just want to make an idea that I thought of come to life that I can use to scare people on Halloween. And that is it, my fellow creepy creepers. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you very much.